Hey guys, it's Aliyah. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're already a subscriber. If you're not, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. I'm giving you messy hair. I'm giving you no makeup. That's the type of vibe that we're on because this is honestly a girl talk video. So this is a lengthy video. Grab your drink of choice. I'm drinking some water and a little snack, and let's get into it. I'm actually gonna let you guys guide this conversation with me. But I did open the floor for questions on my Instagram, so I'm going to let you guys kind of be the guide of how I talk about this because I'm not a professional at this. This is something I'm still, I guess, technically learning how to do, but it's something I do implement into my everyday life, relationship wise, friendship wise, and family wise, and I guess technically business wise, but like the business part isn't like a huge thing for me. So let's hop right in the video. So my hair is going to change 4 times within this video. It's dirty, but I can't curl it yet. All right, let's pull up the questions. Where are they? Okay. Also, I have a giant zit on my chin right now, so it's a pimple patch. So if you see the reflection on the pimple patch, mind your business. Like I said, it's this is a really chill video for me. So, not sure if you're still a nanny, but what type of work boundaries are important? I find myself overbearingly being a people pleaser and taking on more than everyone else. Ooh, girl. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this out the way right now. I'm okay being the villain in anyone's story. I'm okay being your villain origin story. I'm okay being the villain. I'm okay if like you like if people never talk to me again. Like, I'm so okay with it, and I had to become okay with it. I don't think that I've ever really had like the people pleaser thing to me, but a lot more I wanted to, you know, be someone's idea of what perfect was. I wanted to be someone's idea of like what was a good person. And once I started not living for other people and living for myself, that became such a thing. Like, I stopped doing stuff for the gaze of other people around me, blah blah blah, and honestly that has me in like the best situation, like relationship, friendship, and family wise that I've ever experienced in my life. Is like me just being like, I'm an advocate for me. You know, so being okay saying no, being okay being like absolutely the fuck not. But to answer your question about like what are the important parts of like business, so I influence full-time and go to school. Honestly, I have a handful of boundaries that I set, especially like being a content creator and influencer. Like that alone was a place of like, those are new boundaries. Like, that's a new place. There are things that like I just will not accept, but it all depends on like what you do for work, because like I've worked retail, I've worked in a restaurant, I've worked, you know, other places before like getting on the internet and doing this, and all your boundaries are going to be different based on like where you are, what you're working on, where you're working. Like, they're all going to be completely different, and setting boundaries and picking the boundaries that you decide to set is gonna take some soul searching. It's going to be based on you. It's going to be based on what you want. Like, I can't like, my boundaries may not be the same as yours. Like, one of my boundaries is like, I hate being late. So when stuff is like over 20 minutes later, like people are over 20 minutes late, and if you know my boyfriend, that's one of those things where I'm like, I don't want to go anymore. Like, I'm annoyed and no one's gonna have a good time because I'm pissed off because I'm late. When it comes to, I guess, like the work, one of the work boundaries with me is like emails. I send a ton of emails, receive a ton of emails, blah blah blah. I try to send emails and receive emails like during the business day. So like I do 9 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. that's how I work. So like, don't expect me to email you back at 7 o'clock in the morning. Don't expect me to like respond at 7:30 p.m. And that was really important to me, because getting into this place of like working for myself, finding boundaries, because you'll end up working 24/7. So I make sure that like I'm well rested. I make sure that like my well-being is blah blah blah. Like, there are other boundaries, like content creator boundaries, that I have created because I am a one-person team, but it really depends on like what your job is, what you want out of the job, and how you feel about certain stuff. So when it comes to setting boundaries in the first place and like picking them, it really does come down to like how you feel about stuff. And like I said, being the villain, I'm selfish. I'm very selfish. I'm very about me, for my livelihood. You know, I don't have any offspring outside of the one that came along with my relationship, and I don't plan on having any. And like, at the end of the day, I have to be okay answering to me. So when it comes to setting boundaries, I definitely do protect my well-being, do protect my livelihood, and know that with setting these things, there will be some people who get butthurt. There will be some people who don't like the answer to something. There will be people who, I don't know, like overstep, and you have to like know this when you're stepping into this. So I hope that kind of helped. I don't know how much it helped, because like I'm not in like the traditional work realm right now, so I don't really even know what the situation is, and I haven't been in like the traditional work realm since pre-COVID, so I really don't know what that is by any means. So yeah. Ooh, how do you set boundaries without being rude or feeling bad? I don't feel either any of the time, right? Like I said, Charles may join us. Sorry. Like, come on. Are you coming up? Come on. Okay, you gotta sit down. Okay. So I don't have a problem with people deeming me as rude, perceiving me as rude, being mean, if it's because I'm protecting myself. And most of the time, that's usually what the case is like I'm protecting myself, or I'm doing something for my well-being. Like, I always say like I'm not super nice, and like I'm not mean. I'm like a neutral personality type, because not like I'm not gonna go out of my way to like bully anybody or like be mean to somebody, blah 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 blah. Just, you know, that's just out of my range of time. Okay, you gotta sit down. You gotta sit down. That's just like out of my range of time to do stuff like that. Like, that's mean or rude. Like, people think it's rude when like using no as a sentence. So I don't care about that. Feeling bad about something, I'm answering to myself at the end of the day. Like, me and my well-being, like I said, I'm going to say this a lot throughout the video, but like, me and my well-being are like the most important thing to me. I'm the most important thing to me every single day. Outside of my partnership, outside of my friendship, outside of my family, I have to answer to me every single day. At the end of the day, if, you know, I just let people walk all over me, and I'm like I'm sitting in the shower fetal position crying because I'm like, nobody respects me, that's crazy. But everybody else around me is happy. That's crazy. That's crazy for me. I can't do that. I can't live like that. And I was like this before. Please sit down. Sit down, please. Thank you. And I was like this before, you know, where I was just like, it all does come down to like being an advocate for me, being an advocate for for me, you know. So Charles, you have to sit down, baby, or you gotta get down. Take your pick. Sit down or get down. Okay, sit down. All right. I'm gonna cut your nails when we're done. So I don't have a thing about feeling rude. I don't feel bad for putting myself first. I'm gonna put you down. You gotta sit down. You can't sit on my face. But I don't have a thing about like being seen as rude. I don't feel bad about putting myself first. And most of the time when people see me as rude, it's because you overstepped a boundary. That's really what it comes down to. People see me as rude when I'm like, no, you can't do that, like, or I ignore you as a result, or I say something smart because you said something smart to me, and now I'm gonna show you that I have a PhD in bitch. Like, that's when I'm rude. That's when you deem me as rude, because like you said something that like I've already been like, no, you can't do that. No, don't do that. And I don't care to be in the place where I have to like, you know, reposition you. So like a child, you're an adult, you knew exactly what you were doing, you overstepped the boundary, you overstepped the case, you felt entitled to whatever part of me. And I experienced this a lot working on the internet, of like, you feel really, really entitled to some part of me, some part of my life, or some part of something, you know, some part of Aliyah. And no. So being rude is not or the fear of being rude is not really high on like the list for me. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be rude by any means, but like it's going to get to a point where like I said, someone's going to be butthurt, someone's not going to like it, someone's going to feel some type of way. So like, in someone's story, you're the bad person. There are a million realities, and I choose to live in the one where like I'm the main character. So yeah. How do you create boundaries with close family members? So if you know anything about my family structure, like my close family members are like my baba, my papa, and my youngest aunt, who is 11 years older than me. And like at this point, we don't really have to create boundaries. One, I live super duper far away, so like it's very much beyond me. Like if I don't want to answer the phone, I don't answer the phone, but I do talk to them a lot. But they don't overstep any parts of my life. I've noticed like the people that I'm closest with, they know my personality, they know who I am as a person, and they're good at respecting that. The people that I'm not so close with, like mid-level whatever, or like acquaintances, or people that like don't really know you but they think you know you, like they think they know you, they'll do it of like overstepping boundaries. Now you just say no. A lot of stuff really does come down like, and I think one of my superpowers personally is like I'm pretty outspoken. Like I'm pretty well versed in like just communicating when Charles, please. Okay, you gotta go. Thank you. But I think I'm pretty well versed. Covered in cat hair now. I'm pretty well versed in communicating when I don't like something, when I don't want to do something, and like the same thing with like my family and friends and partner. You know, I want everybody to be at a place of like, we're not doing that. Oh, I don't want to do this, blah blah blah. And like I have to say family and friends, but like the people that are close to me, like I damn near consider them family, like same type of respect level, whatever. Now am I gonna get into this? I guess so. So I personally am not like super close with my parents. Growing up, I was a lot closer with my mother than I was my father. Currently, I do not talk to my father, and me and my mother talk like on occasion. And with that, getting back into that habit of talking to her, my mother does not know how to set boundaries. She does not know how to respect boundaries. So that's probably one of the things. I'm gonna say unwind, I'm sorry. But that's probably one of the things, is really getting in the habit of like setting boundaries with like those, you know, middle level people, I guess. Like when it comes to stuff that I just don't feel like she is, or anybody is equipped for, or equipped to talk about with me, or equipped to tell me about, it's like, no, this is not a conversation, or we change the subject. No, you don't get to talk about this. No, you don't get input on this. I personally, one of my least favorite things in the world is unsolicited advice from people who are doing less than you, people who have never been where you want to be, people who have never been on the path that you're on, people who have never people that are less than you telling you how to get someplace that they have never been before is like always a crazy thing to me, and I hate unsolicited advice on that end. So I'm very much a place of like you know, running back to content creation, because you know that part of my life, of when people have so much to say about like that part. I shoulda, coulda, woulda, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, like you shouldn't. You don't get to talk about this. You don't get to tell me how to do something. Or one of my favorite rebuttals is, well then you do it with your whatever you have. Well then you do it with blah blah blah. Well then you do it. But I didn't ask you. And I'm good for saying I didn't ask you, because like I didn't ask. I didn't pose a question. And I, again, take it as rude, take it as however you want to deem it, will tell you that like that's not where you are in life. And like I don't think I'm better than anybody, so don't take it as that. But it's really like I'm doing some shit you've never done before. I'm doing something that you don't know the back end of, or you know, like there's more that goes into it than whatever you think. And this is like, this goes for like the public eye, the private eye, whatever. It's like no. So close family is not really an issue, but I really do think that it just comes down to like you speaking up. Like my grandparents don't push the buttons, my grandparents don't push the boundaries with me. And I also think when it comes to my grandparents, like early on they gave me a place of like autonomy. They gave me a place of like validating my feelings when I voiced them about stuff. And like sometimes like they're not, everything's not black and white. There's a gray area. And like in my particular situation, I live in smack dab in the middle, in the heather gray of everything. Like it's no black and white situations for me at this point, you know. And so growing up with my grandparents, like a lot of times they gave me the choice. They gave me the place of like, oh, like kind of listening, kind of like, you know, we can talk about some stuff. And that's not saying like that like they were perfect by any means, but like we talked about a lot of stuff, or you know, they processed a lot of things out loud for me to like understand and comprehend and blah 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 blah. And like probably also the push from them for me to be autonomous early on is why I have like, I'm really like it's probably why I'm so about me now, is because I had people that were there to be like, no, like that they gave the no, they gave the whatever. Now I think they are a little bit different, and like their viewpoint on it is a little bit different, because like there's still places where it's like, oh, that's your family, that's fine, that's cute, but in theory it's just you at the end of the day, right? It's just you. And talking about like the realm of death, and when like people talk about death, they're like, oh, but when you come to your funeral, I'll be dead. Like if I'm at a funeral, I'm dead. What the heck? What do I care if I'm dead? That don't make no sense. That right there, that alone is like, I'll be dead. I don't care. Like you gonna knock on the urn and be like, well, I didn't show up. I'm sorry, that was a tangent, but speak up, okay? Only people that benefit from you not having boundaries will be upset that you make boundaries. Only people that benefit from you not having space for yourself will be upset that you're making a space for yourself, or you're, you know, spacing yourself out from stuff. Oh, sorry. Running back to that previous question about like the work boundaries, lie to your coworkers. You can make coworker friends, you can, but for the most part, lie. Anyway, so but yeah, it comes to speaking up and being like, I don't like this. Now if you want to explain. I've gotten to the place where like I really don't feel like explaining. I don't feel like giving an explanation a lot of the times, because like it doesn't matter. You either respect it or you don't. When my friends are like, hey, we're not going out, I'm like, okay. Like, or hey, like I can't do this today, I don't expect them to over explain. And like I'm to that same place where it's like, if my close friends don't over explain to me, and like I don't over explain to my close friends, I do not want to over explain to a stranger that knows squat diddly poop about me. Nothing. And again, my boundaries, friends, family, relationship, internet, all that, like all that, you know. So take that how you must. How do you address situations when boundaries are crossed? Say it. I think you're gonna hear me say that a lot, but like again, being outspoken is one of my superpowers, babe. Like one thing about me, I'm gonna say when I don't like something, but it really is come down to say it now, depending on how nice you want to be, how polite you want to be about the situation. It will sound different for different people. In my personal experience, when boundaries are crossed, I'm like, hey, I don't like that. Hey, I'm not going to do that. No, that does not fit into whatever. And like they vary based on business, relationship, family, friends. Business wise, I'll just be like, no, that doesn't fit into whatever my current blah 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 is. I think you're looking for something different. Maybe we can circle back around with blah 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 blah, whatever that is. Friends, it's like, yeah, I didn't like when you did that. And some people may feel some type of way about this one, but it's kind of a place of like, however you did it, I'm gonna do it right back. I'm matching energy. And I know some people don't believe in that, but sometimes, and I'm not saying all the time, again, living in that gray area, sometimes you really do have to match people energy, because it's like, now you knew what you did. You knew exactly what was going on. You're like, your frontal lobe is fully developed, right? You knew exactly what you were doing. So now when I do it back to you, and like maybe that's because I'm karmic, I'm real karmic, don't play with me, but sometimes I have to match energy, like depending on how big the boundary was, how much of a something it was. Like the best example I can give, right, listen, is like, you know, when people like I'm just thinking about a story that I've heard very recently, when people are like pregnant and they don't want to tell anybody that they're pregnant, and somebody else tells people that they're pregnant. Girl, that would be a boundary. Like, especially if you like do it like publicly. Like, I would publicly have to embarrass you, because why would you say that? Why? Now I'm not telling you anything else. And like, when people break those boundaries with you, you have to be in a place, and you have to be so okay with like letting them go, putting them at a distance, you know, putting them on what may be considered like time out. And like, I'm not perfect with it, even when it comes to like cutting people off. Like sometimes I want people in my life so bad, and like I'm a lot better with it now that I'm older, but sometimes you really want people in your life so bad that it like, you have to give them a little time out. Now it's insanity if you know, bring them back in your life the same way, and like they never apologize, they never acknowledge it, they never whatever, and you just let them back in your life to the same capacity. That's insanity. That's crazy. I'm not saying you have to cut off everybody that like, you know, I don't even know, like you don't have to cut off every single person who like doesn't tell you happy birthday. I'm not saying that, but definitely be at a place of like, that person just may not be able to be at capacity, like at the same capacity in your life as they previously were, and settling in that, like you have to be so about you, for you, love you, blah blah blah, that it's like, now why would I let you do something like that? Like, I love me so much, right? I'm so about me, I'm so for me, I'm so for my well-being, I'm so for everything good for me, and you were going to come in here and start a tornado and do something stupid or dumb or something that makes me feel bad or something that like I don't like or something you're gonna do something, and you think I'm just gonna sit there like, bitch, I won't even let myself do that to me. So like, why would I let you do that? That sounds crazy. That sounds absurd. So very much being settled in the like, no. And this may take a little, I'm sorry, my heat just kicked on. This may take a little soul searching. This may take a little time with yourself. If you need to write out a list. So like when I got on social media and like started growing my following, I knew that I was gonna have to set boundaries on the internet. Like I just knew it was gonna be a thing because like my life is hectic and I've lived multiple lives. I've been a whole bunch of different bitches, right? Sorry, I might believe that, I don't know. But I've, you know, I know that there was gonna be stuff that it was just gonna be like, I don't want to talk about this thing, or like even it, and most of the time it's not even stuff about me because like I don't care. Like you know, I don't particularly care. But when it's stuff that involves other people, no. And I knew that it was going to be a place. So like maybe making a list of all the things that you're like, yeah, I don't like this, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna partake in this, I'm not gonna blah 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 blah. Maybe, you know. And again, it's not going to be black and white. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take practice. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience with yourself, especially if you're new to it. If you didn't come from a place where like you got to say no, or you didn't come from a place where you got to choose, especially as a child, and like those pieces of development really do play a large role in your adulthood. And y'all know I'm very much an advocate for like tiny person. Like he gets to choose to do stuff, to not do stuff, to not be around people, but like also to ask for consent and have the same respect towards other people. And if you didn't have that as a child, so for all those years and then to turn around as an adult and try to validate your own feelings, validate your own experience, validate things that make you uncomfortable, it's hard. It can be hard. It can be difficult. So have some grace with yourself, have some patience with yourself when you're first getting into this, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. And like that's probably why I'm so much of an advocate of like, okay, no means no, respecting, you know, if somebody doesn't want to do something, respecting if this tiny person doesn't want to go someplace, respecting if you don't want to hang out with somebody. Because like I had those choices. Like if I didn't want to, you know, answer phone calls for whatever, if I didn't want to hang out with whatever part of my family, if I didn't want to go on family vacations, like as long as I was taken care of, like my grandparents were like, okay, whatever, like we're not gonna force you to do anything. And I have that belief system in like instilling in tiny person, right? Cool. So it's not easy. Speaking up about it is not going to be easy, but you're gonna have to put yourself first. Okay. You're gonna have to put yourself first, like you really are, and you're going to have to think about like what you want, your wants and your desires, those things. And that's probably where those boundaries stem from. I have a lot of little random sayings that like I don't even know that they're sayings, but like sitting down filming this video, I know that I say them a lot. It's like, talk to me nice or don't talk to me at all. If you cross that boundary, don't talk to me. Like, cut it. I guess to get to going. So, I don't know. How do you let people know of new boundaries you're trying to instill in your life? Again, tell them. Now, depending on how close you are to the person, may determine how much explanation you give. Again, sometimes I really don't feel like over explaining stuff. Sometimes I don't feel like blah blah blah, or sometimes at the time that I'm saying something I don't have the time to over explain it. And like I've been in a situation with my friends where sometimes like they are like no, and then we go out later and they're like, oh, cause such and such and such and such, right? So that same ordeal, but it's like you tell them and like let them know to be like, hey, I don't like when this thing happens. I'm gonna burp. Okay, sorry. One of my, I guess, most recent boundaries that I can just think of off the top of my head is like I guess that's not even a recent boundary, but like my friends not calling me after like 10 p.m. if it's not an emergency, or like having access to me. Basically no one has access to me outside of like my partner and like my family after 10 p.m. if it's not a fucking emergency at all. Even him, like vice versa, like if I'm not dying like I'm not gonna text you and like wake you up. Like I don't know how to explain that. And like some people when it comes to the boundaries in my relationship, they have gotten a little up in arms, a little spicy about stuff, and I get it, because there are some people who want complete access to a person that they are partnered to or sleeping with. We're not married, we don't live together, we don't share any children, right? Even if we did, like we still have to be separate entities at the end of the day. So that's just one of those things that I'm just like, are we really? But yeah, so when it comes to like instilling new boundaries, most of the stuff about boundaries is really just coming down to like being okay, speaking your mind, saying what you need to say. So how to separate feelings of guilt from those of necessity. Most of the guilt that y'all be feeling, because not me though, especially, I don't feel guilt about like I said, doing stuff for me. I don't feel guilt about that. Most of the time that y'all feel guilt about stuff is because you do want to be like a people pleaser. So knowing yourself, again, I feel like this is going to get a little repetitive, but definitely knowing yourself and knowing, you know, what you want, what's good for you, what's good for your situation. And if you're like in a unit type of situation, like partnership thing, like knowing what's good for your partnership and like your family dynamic, will make it. Are my lashes okay? They're fine. But will make a difference as far as feeling guilty about stuff. Like you kind of have to let that go. And again, maybe it's like my supervillain complex. No, but maybe it is like a little bit of my supervillain complex, where it's like I'm not gonna feel bad about doing something for me if I already have something pre-planned, blah blah blah. And again, gray area, it's not gonna be the easiest thing if you're coming from a place of like your family is always like, well, that's your family, they should, families first, and you're like, no. Like one of the things that I read a lot of like Reddit stories and like listen to a lot of like podcasts and stuff, and one of them is like, oh, my sister couldn't have kids, or she like miscarried or something, and then like I had twins and she expected to, they were like, give her at least one of your babies, and it's like, no. And they were like, oh, well, my family feels some type of way, and it's like, no. Or I'm trying to think of like just examples off the top of my head. Oh, it was another Reddit story, and like the girl married like this very wealthy man, and like the man's family paid for her wedding, and her family gave her like 10K toward the wedding for her like dress and whatever. And then her sister marries someone like less financially stable, and she has her own kids and, you know, debt and blah blah blah, and expects like the already married sister, she expects the already married sister to go out of her way and pay like $100,000+ on her wedding, because like her fiance can't afford it, she can't afford it, and like the family is giving her the same amount of money that they gave the original married sister. And she, no, like family is important, sure, great, amazing, but feeling guilty about stuff that like literally is not your fault, is not your problem, is not your responsibility. And that's where you have to get a little selfish with like the thought process, is like, honestly, does this affect me? Like, and I think that is one of those things that's like, does this thing affect me? Like, does this directly affect me? Now, it's a little bit different when it comes to like tiny person being involved in any of this mindset, because I'm like, all right, that's different. But does it affect you? Like, is this thing, does it actually matter? And a lot of time the answer is no. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, like those 5 minutes that person is going to be upset, like they'll get over it, or y'all will stop talking. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So how do you even set them politely or in general? Polite is not in my job description. That's not who I am. But in general, it really does come down to you being able to speak up, speak your mind, speak for yourself, speak to advocate for yourself, speak for best practices towards yourself, like all of those things. So it again is really just like, I don't like this. You can't do this. You're not allowed to do this. We're not allowed to be in this space. Hey, if you do this particular thing, like, I don't want to be around you anymore. If you do this particular thing, I don't want to talk to you anymore. If you do this particular thing, and like, I'm gonna bring kids into it again, because it's like people with children very specifically is like, if you have boundaries, especially regarding your children, and I notice people with kids like they're better at this than they are with themselves. So that's why I keep like, trying to push that boundary, because people with children, like, they're better at this for the kids than they are for themselves. Like, it's like, you can't cross this boundary for the kid. Like, if you don't want someone smoking around your child and they're like, well, I need 7 packs a day, you're like, well, you can't be around this tiny human. That's it. That's all. And the same goes for you. And I think I was talking about like my upbringing, so I think a lot of it does come down to like, how much do you care for your inner child? And I don't realize that I say this a lot, but I do this a lot, like subconsciously, but I do cater to my inner child a lot. And my inner child is the person that's like 8-year-old me. She's the one that makes a lot of these rules. Like 8-year-old me, she is like the prime example of like what she wanted, what she didn't want, what she wasn't gonna deal with. Like she really does make a lot of the rules, and she's the person that like I'm thinking about and processing the most. And like I tune into her a lot, and she's the part of me that's really selfish. She's the part of me that's really self-centered. She's the part of me that's like, no. Like, she is very only child complex. She's pretty much a hard ass, and I love her because like that's the person that like I'm taking care of. I'm taking care of my inner child. I'm catering to my inner child. I'm catering to that part of me, because those like fundamental development things are really the pieces of me that like kind of decided, be like, I don't like this, I don't feel good about this, this doesn't make me feel good, this at the end of the day is not gonna add anything to my life, it's not gonna improve any part of my life. She's just like, no, like like when you have to like over explain to when you have to over explain something, that girl is not over explaining. She's not. So not just knowing yourself currently, but like I guess this is also a thing of like kind of tapping into your inner child. And like I didn't even think about this, but really tapping into your inner child, because like that's who you're taking care of. The best analogy is like there's a Disney short, and it's about a girl like in her 20s or something, and in the body of her 20s she's like an infant, like a child, and like a teenager. And that's what it feels like, because I have to cater to all parts of those myself. And like that kid, like me, little Aliyah, is really the one that like, fortunately, she calls a lot of the shots in this being. And I'm not saying it's different parts, but like those developmental stages and like those developmental pieces of myself do play a large role in like how I set something, how I proceed with something, how, like, me, you know, and maybe pick a time in your life where, or like pick a piece of your personality that just gets to be like undeniably about yourself, and work with that part of yourself. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but like healing your inner child does cause like taking care of your inner child, and boundaries are part of like, okay, boundaries are part of like the healing process. And it could also be the therapy in me. It could also be the like being in like a good mental position in my life that I'm able to even like say stuff like this, because I don't think 18-year-old me, I don't think she would have been able to do this, honestly. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay saying that 19-year-old me, I don't think I would have been able to do this. Like, even talking to my partner who's known me since I was literally 19, and he's like, I just remember you, you know, trying so hard to be perceived as the woman that like you actually are today. Like, you wanted so hard to, like, I'm gonna cry. I'm always trying not to cry in these videos, but like basically like me trying to be independent, me trying to care for myself, me trying to be like, wow, relax, bitch, me trying to be like mentally stable, and being that for me now, like, and maybe that's where you need to tap into, is like the part of yourself that is like, you want to make little you proud, you want to make younger you proud. Because like I look at pictures of like, you know, 5-year-old me and 10-year-old me and even 15-year-old me, and I'm like, those girls, they would look up to me and they would be like, I want to be just like that girl when I grow up. Like, and that's where I sit, and like that's where a lot of this stems from, is like, would little Aliyah be proud? So I hope that kind of helps that. But like, being polite is not gonna be your main concern. It shouldn't be your main concern. You're gonna be the bad guy in the story. Somebody has to be the big bad wolf, and it's going to be you sometimes. So how do you go about setting how do you go about setting boundaries with your other half? I think that's supposed to say respectfully. I do not call that man my other half, my partner. I don't like that terminology. I'm a full person. Without him, we're two full people, like without each other. But I know what you mean. So how do I go about setting boundaries within my relationship? This, again, pulling like all the scenarios, my family, my friends, my partner, even, you know, tiny person, like, we're not sensitive people. And because I don't want anything, like, I can't expect anything from them that they couldn't expect from me. So we have made a place that like we kind of like talk about everything, all the things, and I do not shy away from the hard conversations, neither does he. And you know, something like, every conversation is not like happy-go-lucky. We don't have time for every single conversation, but it's never disrespectful. Like, it's never coming from a place of disrespect. And I think him also knowing me to an extent does play a role in that as well, of like, he knows that like a lot of times I'm coming from a place, and even if I don't know where I'm coming from all the time, I just saw a tweet about this, but even if I don't know where I'm coming from all the time, and like what developmental part of myself, or like, you know, wounded child part of myself this particular thing is coming into it now, and he's like, well, you know, why? Like, he's good at asking the right questions to get me to think about it, and like that's how we can get onto topics of conversation and like further go into detail about it, like why I don't like certain things, why this thing doesn't, you know, whatever. And vice versa. Like, there's some stuff that like, one of his things, and like this was a completely opposite thing for me, was like hanging up on him. Again, coming from a place where I had complete autonomy, right? It was just a thing, like, if I didn't want to talk anymore, if I was like done with conversations, I was gonna hang up on somebody. I still do it now. Really bad habit, but I do it. And so when we first started dating, he was like, yeah, you're not gonna do that again. He's like, nobody does that to me, like that's disrespectful. And I'm like, but it was really coming from a place of like, okay, well, I understand, I'm gritting my teeth, but I get it. So being open to both sides of the track, being open to both sides of the railroad, not being overly sensitive or overly analytical, and I think also ultimately not taking stuff extremely personally, even in a romantic partnership. A lot of the stuff that does come down to like boundaries is stuff that like is not even me specifically, or it's not even him specifically. It's like something that happened as you were a child. Like there was a random conversation that we had like about like getting your significant other's name tattooed on you. Do what you want to do. This is just my very, very personal opinion. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I absolutely freaking hate it. Hate it from the bottom of my heart. Hate. When I say hate it, I hate it. Hate it. Hate it. Oh, I hate it. And he didn't know this about me. And I was like, it's because boo boo boo, and like explaining where this thing came from. And like it wasn't even like a serious conversation. We were like joking about it. And I was just like, it like triggered a piece of me where I was just like, and like knowing my triggers and knowing things that do trigger me based on like, you know, family relationships, you know, previous relationships with in the romantic realm, previous friendships, knowing the things that like trigger me has also made it easier for me to be like what I don't accept and what I will accept. Knowing those hard no's, knowing those, just it so much, it really does come down to me just knowing me. It comes down to me spending a lot of time with myself, things that make me happy, things that don't make me happy, things that I'm just like, I'm the main character. And you know, doing stuff, I'm sorry to tell you, but doing stuff in the best interest for the main character. Like, as far as I'm concerned, everything in this universe revolves around me. It really does. It really genuinely does. And call it selfish, call it mean, call it whatever. But I told y'all previously, I live in delusion, bitch. So like, it's about me. And to set boundaries, you do have to make it about you and make it about what you want at the end of the day. So I think that is all for today's video. I hope I was able to help on any realm of, I guess, getting to this place, getting to this piece. And I hope that it gave you some insight about like my thought process and how I'm able to obtain like all the things that I want, and not even obtain all the things that I want, but obtain all the relationships that I want, that I find fruitful to me, that are pleasing to my spirit, that are pleasing to my surroundings, that just like genuinely being in a place of like just being happy, because I'm not tainted by dealing with stuff just because I feel like I'm supposed to deal with something, just because I'm supposed to, because like I don't feel like that about nothing. Like my grandma, I don't know if it was my grandma or grandpa, one of my grandparents like told me early on, and was it? I don't know, but I remember hearing it as a child, like, you don't have to do anything but say black and die. I'm just saying, right? Boom. So thank you for watching this week's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.